We've spoken in detail about what the tenant is actually responsible for when they're actually renting out a property. In this video, we're going to talk about what the landlord is responsible for in terms of the obligations and in terms of the cost that the landlord is responsible for. So welcome to this week's session where we discuss all things real estate, all things finances. Let's get to it, shall we? So the first thing that the landlord is responsible for is to make sure that they deliver a property that is fit to live in, like a property in a good condition that doesn't put the life of the tenant at risk, right? So this is the first thing, right? And also the landlord must give an undisturbed access or undisturbed use of the property to the tenants, right? And might inspect the property every now and then, as long as they notify the tenant in advance, right? The landlord can also restrict the number of residents that must stay in that property, but they cannot restrict the number of visitors the tenant has in the property, right? And also the landlord must maintain the property and repair any items proven not to have been broken by the tenant. So anything that the tenant has not intentionally or by negligence damaged, so it means that thing can be or must be repaired by the landlord and not by the tenant, right? And then also, should the landlord decide to sell their property, they cannot terminate the contract of that of the tenant. They should wait for the lease to elapse or to pass or to expire. Only then the new buyer can take over the property, right? And then the other thing is that they cannot illegally evict a tenant, right? Even if the tenants defaults on the terms of the lease, they should consult with the lawyers first, right? Seems unfair to landlords, but okay, this is the law. What can we do? Okay, so what are the costs that the landlord is responsible for? Okay, so of course the landlord is responsible to pay the rates and taxes that is imposed by the local authority. So there's no way about that. The tenant cannot pay the rates and taxes, right? And the other thing is that the landlord is responsible to pay the body corporate through levies. So the levy amounts should be paid by the landlord, okay? If in cases where that property is a sectional property or it's a property that is inside an estate or a complex where there's a homeowners association or there's a body corporate, right? And then the landlord is also responsible to maintain the building structure, including electrical and the plumbing system. So anything to do with that, the landlord should cover it, right? And then the other thing is that the landlord should maintain the continued functioning of equipment and fixtures that are of basic need for reasonable and agreed upon living standard. Things like geyser, stove, light fitting, switches, pumps, and motors. So all these things are the responsibility of the landlord. So I hope this is clear on what the landlord is responsible for. Also, I've made a video specifically discussing what are the responsibilities and what are the costs that the tenant is responsible for. I will put a link on the video below, and then if you have not watched that video, then you can actually go to that video and clearly understand what are the things that the tenant is responsible for, because this is very much important for landlords to understand and also for tenants to understand in order to ease off on disagreement, because some of the people might not take responsibility of what they should actually take responsibility and accountability for. So if you have watched the video until this far, it means this video have added some sort of value to you. So please like this video, share it with your friends so that also it can add value to them, right? Remember, we discuss all things real estate, all things finances, and we empower you to be the person, to be the driver of your financial life and not the passenger of your financial life. See you on the next one. Peace out.